Hi everybody, my name is Gretel and welcome back to my channel. I have prepared an interview process video just to help nurses best prepare for interviews. I know it can be extremely stressful, so this is just my helpful tips to help you guys go into your interviews, as well as doing questions and answers so you have an idea of how to answer. So let's go ahead and get into this video. Okay, so first I wanted to apologize if I'm like looking both ways. I'm not used to filming, so sorry. So for preparation, I recommend you guys to do research on the hospital. It would just make you look better, and it'll show the hospital that you did your research, which they will greatly appreciate. I recommend that you guys look up their mission, vision, and values so you could put that into your answers when you're speaking to them. Furthermore, in the video, I will kind of show you how I involved this in my answers. I would also recommend that you guys look up awards and recognition of the unit. If you can't find one of their unit, definitely look up recognitions of the hospitals so you could use that during your interview. Also look up the patient population, the types of patients they take care of. That way you could kind of talk about those types of patients, and it will just make you look better. I do want you guys to know that I am recording this video because I did do about 5 interviews. 2 of them, they actually offered me the spot right after the interview. So I just thought this is the best time to do it since I just did it. So okay, so the biggest question of them all is, tell me about yourself. This is very different when it comes from a nurse who has experience and a nurse who is straight out of college, a new grad nurse. However, I'm just gonna help you best answer this question. What I recommend is, this is the moment where you should actually put in the mission statement or their values while you're talking. When I give the answer, I will kind of go over how I did this, how I also go over the population that they work with. You could say, hey, I worked with certain patients and all that. And for new nurses, new grads, I would recommend that you guys go over types of leadership positions you were in, team positions. I know I was very clear back when I did my interview as a new grad. I know I was very clear that I was on the women's soccer team and that I really prioritized team environments. And I just kind of went a lot about how I'm a team member and how I've been in leadership positions through that, and that would be my best recommendation. Before I answer the tell me about yourself, there was a mission statement for a hospital that it basically said that their whole goal was to prevent illness, promote healing, and to restore optimal health to their patients in their communities. So I use that as well, and I'm just gonna kind of answer the question the way I answered it in those interviews. Yeah, so I would like to thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to speak with you. I would describe myself as a healthcare member who's very passionate and has a desire to promote healing, prevent illness, and restore optimal health to our patients, as well as be a part of a team whose mission is that. As an emergency department nurse, I have been given the opportunity to work with a variety of different patients. Typically, patients I have worked with are respiratory cardiac arrests, allergic reactions, overdoses, strokes, and so on. My last hospital was not a trauma center. However, we did still receive trauma patients from the waiting room, where we stabilized them and treated them, and then transfer them to a level 1 hospital. Being a registered nurse, the career has been incredibly rewarding, and working in emergency medicine, I feel that I have been challenged, and I would just love to continue making a difference in healthcare and of course in our patients' lives. For the strength questions, I recommend that you say what your greatest skill is and then follow it up with an example. I would say my greatest strength is that I am calm and adaptable under pressure. For example, in the emergency department, we received many ambulance. I had received an ambulance with the complaint of nausea and vomiting only. When this patient was rolled in, immediately I assessed the situation and saw that this patient was extremely lethargic. I threw him on the monitor and I saw that his oxygen level was very low. I placed him on a non-rebreather. I immediately grabbed a doctor. There was also a visitor present in the room, so I knew that I had to stay calm in the situation so both the visitor and the patient knew that they were in good care. Because of my adaptability and how quick I did everything, we were able to give him the appropriate airway management, the appropriate medication and treatment. This patient did end up going to the ICU. However, days later he was discharged, and I feel with the adaptability in the room, this patient was brought to that outcome. I would say my greatest weakness is that I have trouble saying no to requests. As a nurse, I really prioritize teamwork. I try my best to help out my team members as much as possible. However, there are times where I feel like I do overload myself because I have trouble saying no. However, I am working on this skill by using my prioritization skills. If I have a patient who is very sick, I will just nicely tell them that I am not able to because of this, and if I can accommodate to that need, I will, but if I cannot, then I will simply just have to say no. I would love to work for this hospital because I know that you guys were rewarded as a magnet hospital 4 years in a row, demonstrating to me that you guys hold yourself to a golden standard, which is one of my biggest goals as a nurse. I also saw that you guys were recognized for world-class patient satisfaction scores. So I always, as a nurse, try my best to make my patients happy, take care of their needs, and I would love to be a part of a team who also prioritizes that. Yes, so I did have a conflict with a doctor over a medication once. A lot of the doctors, they're very much respected. However, there was an order that they wanted me to give one of my diabetic patients insulin sub-Q. However, in the order, it had made a side comment saying, please give IV. So in that moment, I thought that maybe there was some type of mistake. I spoke to the doctor to clarify the order, and they told me, oh, the order, please give it IV. They weren't able to, the order wouldn't allow them to give it IV. So I immediately was very uncomfortable. I had concerns about it. So I spoke to one of my coworkers and asked them what they thought about the order. They said that it looked inappropriate to them and maybe I should reach out to pharmacy. I called pharmacy and basically they had told me that the only way this patient would be able to receive this dosage IV is if we made them a DKA candidate and followed the DKA protocol. When I went and told the doctor and explained everything to them, the doctor was not too happy. They didn't want to make this patient a DKA candidate, and she just was very annoyed by the whole situation. However, after telling her I had reached out to pharmacy and reached out to my coworker, we came to an understanding that we had to do a different order, a more appropriate order. So that's the way I handled that conflict with a doctor. When you speak about why you left a certain position, do not talk about things you hate. Do not talk about what you hated there, or don't even bring financial stuff in, like, oh, I'm making more money here. Don't say anything like that. Just don't say that. Depending on where I was going, I did answer this differently. So if I was going to the emergency department at a higher level hospital, I would say I left my last hospital because I wanted to further challenge myself and work with more trauma patients at a more advanced hospital to just increase my knowledge and of course grow further as a nurse. If you are going into a different specialty, talk about why you really want to go into that specialty. Say, I very much respect the emergency department and completely admire the team that I worked with. However, I did want to go into a different specialty. I really enjoyed working with patients who I had to prepare to go into surgery, as well as intubated patients where I had to critically think in those situations. So I really just wanted to grow my nursing skills further. As a nurse, we typically do not deliver bad news on our own. It's usually something the doctor does, or we go in with the doctor. However, there was an instance where I had a patient who she was very young, in her 30s. She had never had any type of healthcare problems in the past. She just had a newborn, and she was just trying to get home to her newborn. And I went in there with the surgeon because she had to go into emergency surgery, which was terrible news for her. So the surgeon told her, and she basically was very upset, went on a rant, and said no. And the surgeon was like, okay, and literally walked out and left me alone in the room, just me and her. And this patient was not maintaining well at all. Their blood pressure was 60 systolic. She was bleeding consistently. She was vomiting. She was having like everything that would indicate that this patient is declining. And I knew her biggest concern was that she had a newborn at home. She didn't want to stay here like a long time and everything. And I felt that it was my ethical duty as a nurse to truly explain and educate to this patient and their visitors the importance of this surgery. So I educated them on their vital signs. I educated them on the type of surgery from what I knew, and they ended up saying yes to it. They understood the severity of it, and I grabbed the surgeon. The surgeon wasn't very happy that she had to go back in there to get informed consent. However, I do feel that in that moment I verbally saved somebody's life just by educating them. We receive many patients that come under police custody. So I was going into my shift and I hear a lot of screaming, yelling, just somebody who's extremely upset. I'm getting handoff report, and I, as a nurse, I like to round on my patients. I like to prioritize a safe environment for all the patients. So I went in there and I asked the woman, like, what can I do to help you feel better? What is wrong? And she told me that she had been evaluated right after she had been given a sedative medication, and that she felt that was extremely unfair. So I felt like it was my ethical duty to get her evaluated again, just because she was under a sedative medication, and that isn't an appropriate evaluation. I did have help from one of my coworkers who also thought that was the best thing that we should do if we can. The doctor was okay with it. We were able to set that up, and we did learn that this patient was a rape victim and she was in adoption. So being in handcuffs was extremely traumatizing to her, as well as her child was not there with her, so she had fear that her child would be put up for adoption. We were also able to learn comfort measures. She was comforted over watching TV, so we were able to do certain stuff like that, and she later was very satisfied with her care and ended up coping a lot better. So okay guys, so this is the end of my video. I hope that these tips are very useful to nurses, and of course just be very confident in your skills. Definitely you're gonna kill it. So thank you so much for seeing my video. If you enjoyed it, give it a like. If you guys have any types of questions or answers that would help other nurses, definitely comment that below. So bye guys, thank you so much.